Yeah, true. Nomination of Chief Justice.
Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on, the Wadjuk people. We pay respect to the elders of the Wanneroo Nation, past and present, who have walked and cared for the land, and we acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contributions made to the life of this city and this region. I declare the council members' briefing session open at 6:01. Just please note that the audio proceedings of tonight's meeting will be published on the city's website tomorrow, with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. Item 1 is attendances that we have for the record. Item 2 is apologies and leave of absence. We have a leave of absence from Councillor Baker from the 11th of July to the 21st of August 2022. We have an apology from Councillor Berry, an apology from Councillor Miles.
And I have an apology from Councillor Newen.
And an apology from Councillor Newen. Item 3 is deputations. We have nil. Item 4 is reports. And just on the items, councillors, if you do have any declarations of interest on any of the reports, you can just bring that to the chair's attention at the time, please. So we move on to planning and sustainability. Mr. Bowring and Mr. Dixon ready in place. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. There is one item from the Planning and Sustainability Directorate on tonight's agenda, and Mr. Bowring and myself will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councillors, this is on item 4.1. Are there any questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a question on the design and the width of the road. That will go in, you will go into that in a lot more detail at the right time. I know that it is very hard to supply, and I do know that what they're saying is different caravan today. And I'm sure over the years, other people today are doing even less. That you're going to have a utility center where you might have more coming roads from the actual property. And I'm worried about that 5 meters, and it's not sealed either. So if people are coming and going and they have to go off, is there going to be something? So the question is there going to be something down the line that we can look at to change if a problem does emerge?
Thank you. President the road reserve is in the it's a public realm, so it's our road. The development application is sort of a nexus, one of the uses on that stretch of road to increase the use of it. There isn't a direct nexus between the proposed zoning and the intensity of use and a requirement to upgrade the road, but it's certainly something that we would monitor and look at in terms of the impact that the use has. So I understand what you're saying is that the responsibility of the applicant to upgrade that portion of road. It would be something we would look at the development application stage as well, if this amendment is successful. But there isn't a very, at this stage, we're saying it's not a heavy use, so it's not a strong nexus between this use and the need to upgrade that road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Are there any further questions on this item, councillors? There are none. That must be a record, Mr. Dixon, for planning. So thank you. And of course, you do need to have to stay with us all night, Mr. Dixon, to go through all of the other directives. Welcome, Mr. J. We move on to assets. Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor. Matt says have 4 reports on tonight's agenda, and I'd like to briefly introduce item 4.5 and take questions on the other reports.
So 4.5.
Thank you. Yeah, item 4.5 is in front of us today to seek endorsement for administration to engage and inform the community prior to the implementation of a change to the bulk waste collection service, with the introduction of a pre-booked collection for bulk junk and bulk green waste. The Waste Services Delivery Review is guided a transition plan which outlines the path the city to provide optimum services for the community to maximise resource recovery and to cope with the expected population growth. In the review that's been undertaken, the city has looked at various options and services provided by other councils, including the City of Swan, Stirling and Joondalup, as well as the metropolitan regional councils. Following this review, it was identified that a Verge pre-booking bulk collection service is the best option for the city moving forward. The option also aligns with the Waste Authority's Burnside Better Practice principles and the state's waste strategy. The benefits of a pre-booking bulk collection service include a faster, more convenient service delivery option for the community. It's also more economical and helps to improve resource recovery and recycling. And it better aligns to the city's waste plan and is considered a safe option. It's obviously subject to council endorsement, but it's also intended that we now engage with the community regarding this plan, and then following this engagement, bring this matter back to council members prior to the implementation of the service. Happy to take questions. Those reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillors, do we have any questions on this item? Councillor Humphrey?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I've just got one question. This is not going to be run as a trial, is it? This is actually changing completely. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we're not going to see if it works or if it doesn't work. No plan B.
Now, there's no plan B at this stage. The plan is that we implement the bulk services review as has been researched and to ensure that we undertake a service delivery.
This, as I understand, this is simply going out for community consultation on those options. Mr. Acting CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, as with any change which we bring for the community, there will always a review required at a certain period after we introduce a change. So in this case, should council adopt this preferred option to be implemented after community engagement is completed, after maybe 12 months, 18 months period, once we collect the data and look at how the new option will work, there will be a potential for a review, and any changes then can be tweaked to suit.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So just basing on,
Hang on, Councillor Wright, I actually love Councillor Wright. Sorry, but I'll come to you next.
Thanks, I thought I was hearing an echo actually. That's strange. I just have 2 questions, and obviously this is subject to going out to community engagement and following all the processes. The first is the scheduled booking system itself. We envisaged that there'd be an online component, but there'd also be a phone or an in-person booking system for those that don't necessarily feel comfortable using the internet to be able to book that service.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Yes, there will be an online booking system. There will also be the option with the president who want to come to the Civic Centre, as well as if they wish to make a phone call and if they're booking by that.
And given that it is proposing a significant change, I suppose, from the current system, we do obviously have a culturally and linguistically diverse community. Is there any scope, subject to the consultation happening, for the waste education team to be able to engage with that culturally and linguistically diverse community to let them know about the changes and what the impacts will be on a per household basis?
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. There will be a communication plan that will be developed following, and that communication will cover that.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Wright, yes.
Councillor, I covered one of my questions. That was good. In regards to the other one, have we as just in terms of the actual review, because I know the acting CEO just said that obviously collecting the data would take. So if we're thinking this would be implemented in 2 years' time or 2 or 3 years' time, or this be for the next cycle?
Oh, Mr. Acting CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The report does mention that when we had the last conversation with council members on this particular item, we were targeting the start date of first quarter of next financial year. After that, we had discussed this matter further and explored that we need to go back to the community to community engagement. In that case, the start date is more than likely to be toward the middle of next financial year. And then after the new option is implemented, the data for the new implementation can be collected, how the community is accepting it, are there any changes required after that. That does take 12 to 18 months time. That's what I would put.
Are there any further questions, councillors? Yeah, councillor Sangal.
Just as part of this, I just note that the actual service review documentation isn't available at the moment on the website for the public. And I just know going forward, as things change, the question will arise about why we're doing this and how we've come about it. So perhaps including this information as a separate item on the website rather than having to look up reports through the agendas would be a good thing.
Mr. Acting CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, we can look at that one. We can make that available, but definitely it'll be part of the report for now. So that we can look at it as part of community engagement with that open.
Thank you. Yeah, councillor Civic.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. With regards to trialling, once we've done gone out to public consultation and we get the go ahead, I mean, based on the savings that can be made on under options 3 and 4, and the education program would have to be absolutely thorough because under the current system, people know when there's going to be a bird picker. When we go to the new systems, people may become complacent, even though we will get, I guess, a public consultation process. So will we trial this for 12 months to see how it works? Once it's in, it's in. Is that a fair question? Yeah. Sorry, big one.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for your Deputy Mayor. Yeah, the intention is that the public education is obviously key to this, ensuring that the information is available to all members of the community around how the service will be implemented moving forward. So that program is what we're seeking to ensure is endorsed, and then once we go through that community consultation program, we come back to council to ensure we're then ready to go and make the program live. So yeah, that's key to ensure it's successful.
Thank you.
Further questions, councillor?
Sorry, so what's mine? For the current system that we use, are we actually currently collecting data about how many households are actually participating in the program? Because if we're going to transition, obviously we can calculate sort of savings and that sort of thing. But do we actually have any data on both of the services we offer now and how many households actually use that?
Thank you, Councillor.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor. Right. Yes, we are currently collecting data. We've just started collecting data on as well as collection cycle.
Would that data be able to have for councils to have a look at before we transition after community consultation? Would that data be available for us to be able to look at?
Yes, we can see how we can make that data available.
Further questions, councillors? I have one. I'll just note that the projected savings that are covered in the report on option 3 is around about 1.469 million in the 23-24 financial year, which I think is an ideal opportunity. Now that is based around a lot of work that and briefings that have come to council. And council's been, as an entire body, not any one individual, making sure that the approach strategically has been undertaken and it's been a joint decision-making process Just want to confirm, Mr. G, Mr. G or Mr. Carrera, that it was actually developed up, this option was developed up by administration based on the state government policy position. And I just wanted to clear up some misunderstanding that might be out there in the community that somebody on council might have been taking complete credit for this. So just want to make sure that it's in response to the state waste management policy and the information and the approach has been adopted and worked up by administration.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, this review has been done in alignment with the state sports strategy.
And the administration have been working through those policies and strategies to present the report themselves. That would be correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I just wondered if there are any misinformation that might be out there in the community. Mr. Acting CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Internally, we have collected information. We've done the comparable survey with the other local authorities and looked at the previous community information which was received in 2018, which has outlined in the report. That what our community would like in this particular service. And team has considered all that and done the review in-house collectively and analyzed all the data, including the financial data as well, in making this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acting CEO. And I wanted to raise that because I know the amount of professional skill and diligence that the administration demonstrate, and I think it's just important that gets recognised. Are there any further questions on this item again, councillors? There are none. So, Mr. G, we're back up at that was the only item you wish to speak to? Yes, that's correct. Thank you. I'll ask councillors if they have any questions on 4.2. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to clarify one of the projects that's listed on page 25 of the agenda proper. It is project number 4, Mirrabooka Avenue, Montrose Avenue, Kandoola Avenue, Kandoola. The BCR result for that project is listed as 0.68. I read earlier in the report that for a project to be eligible for funding under the state or federal schemes, it has to have a BCR minimum of 1 or above, unless there has been a road safety inspection carried out. I just wanted to check, because that project is listed below 1, has a road safety inspection been carried out, and is that the reason it's listed in the funding?
Mr. G or Mr. Barker?
Mr. G. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I can confirm that this location is subject to a road safety inspection, which is part of the submission that was undertaken as it was along BCR.
Any further questions on 4.2, councillors? 4.3. 4.4. And if you have any questions on this, councillors, we'll need to potentially go into confidential session if it relates to fine detail. Any questions, councillors? And 4.5 we have done. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. G, Mr. Clara, and Mr. Lane. We move on to community in place. Mr. Terlick. Welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We have 8 items this evening from the Community in Place Directorate, and I'd like to briefly introduce item 4.7 and item 4.9, and happy to take questions on the remaining items.
Thank you, Mrs. Terlick. 4.7.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So 4.7, council members, introduces the concept of doing some advocacy and identifying advocacy priorities for social advocacy within the city. So as council members would be aware, the city has got the Connect Wanneroo campaign, which has been our advocacy plan over a number of years, and that has been very successful in delivering physical infrastructure outcomes for the city. So taking, I guess, a lead from the Connect Wanneroo strategy, there is also an opportunity for the city to advocate for social services to be available within our community. So that's not necessarily the city delivering those services, but ensuring that our community has access to those services that contribute to the health and wellbeing and quality of their life within the city. So there's been quite a bit of work done to understand from the community and also from agencies that provide services and also other state and federal government agencies what the priorities would be for our community in terms of social services. As a result of that, we have identified 4 priorities for social advocacy. So the first one is around homeless support and accommodation services. The second one is around family and domestic violence support and accommodation services. The third one is around youth diversionary services and particularly focused on a PCYC that there is currently in the northern metropolitan area. And the final one is family support services, and that's by way of the Child and Parent Centre. So the intention is to we've identified the priorities. The advocacy now would be undertaken aligned to some fact sheets that have been developed and are attached to the agenda. The ultimate intention is when we review Connect Wanneroo in the latter part of this financial year, the intention is to add in a wellbeing theme to Connect Wanneroo that will capture the social advocacy priorities. And some of those social advocacy priorities will also add weight to existing priorities that have been identified in Connect Wanneroo. One of those being the advocacy around the health services, medical services in Yanship. So happy to take any questions from you from me.
Thank you, Mrs. Terrell. Questions, councillors, on this item? I think it's a fantastic report and well, actually well overdue. There are no questions, Mrs. Terrell, so we move on to 4.9.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So 4.9 introduces a concept design for a library and youth innovation hub on the Broadview in Lansdale. Council members would be aware that we have been working on this project for some time, and this is the first time, however, that a concept design has been specifically undertaken for this particular site. So we have done community consultation previously on this project in terms of understanding from the community if they would support this type of facility on the site in Lansdale. And that received strong support. And since then, we have now been working with an architect to develop a concept design specifically for that facility. So this report is looking at progressing that concept design to community consultation so that the community has an opportunity to view the concept, to provide feedback on the concept, and also to provide us with some input and advice on what types of programs and services that we would run from this facility in future. So that's dealing with the concept design side of things. The second part of this is to also look at the opportunity to name our first facility using Noongar naming, which aligns with an action in our reconciliation action plan, and is certainly a direction that the city has been looking to progress for some time. We did employ Mujar Consultancy to do some work with elders, with our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community reference group, and with other community members to understand the history of the place that we are looking to locate this facility, what that means to the Aboriginal community and what part of their cultural story that represents. And the Noongar name has been developed as Dordak Kepa, and with the facility description looking to be the Library and Youth Innovation Hub. And so the name is presented to council for consideration. And this is, I guess, an exciting opportunity for us to name or to apply a Noongar name to the first facility in the city that we are developing. And the intention is that the name would also be represented in the design and construction and fit out of the facility to carry through the story of the name, which means the place of living waters.
Dan, you took that, I was just going to actually start off with that, the place of living waters. It's very well done. Thank you, Mrs. Sterling. Questions, councillors? Yep, councillor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I couldn't let this one go, of course. It's in my backyard, so I can't help it. I'm pretty excited. It's awesome to see that we're going out to consult. I just wanted to confirm how long we're actually going to go to consult for, and the way that we're advertising it to make sure that we go as reachable as possible to get that feedback back.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So in terms of how we would do the consultation, we would put it onto the Your Say page and also have communications and social media linking people to the Your Say page. There'd also be a letter dropped to residents within a 400-metre radius of the proposed building. We would also undertake further communication to those people who previously commented on the project. So we've engaged with local schools, tenants of the Lansdale Forum, and others who have been involved in the consultation process to date. We would also feature it in what's happening again to point people towards consultation, and we would advertise it through social media and other networks as well that we have. And the final thing is we would also be looking, as we did for the first round of consultations, to do a kind of a drop-in session at one of our local facilities. So those people who may not have access to online can drop in and share their views. We have a look at some big plans and that type of thing and share their views. I would anticipate that the consultation would be open for 4 weeks, which would be more 28 days, which is our standard. Open to any suggestion whether that should be longer, but at this point it would be proposed to be 4 weeks.
Thank you, Mrs. Sterling. Before I go to Councillor Rowe, I just want to make sure that it's confirmed that we've adjusted the design to remove the proposed tenancy for a cafe. So the intention is to go out with that design minus that tenancy for the cafe that was previously proposed.
Through Deputy Mayor, yes, that's the case. The floor plan that we have attached to the report shows that area is now as a landscaped area.
Thank you, Mrs. Sterling. Councillor Rowe.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'll be foreshadowing the declaration of impartiality on the signing for next week, as I work for the member who secured the election candidate for this project. My question just relates to the results from previous community consultation. Director, to the best of your knowledge, are those results on the hub? Because I think just for elected members, seeing the level of a community support for the project does actually provide a healthy amount of perspective going forward. So if they're not, should direct that to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sterling.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. So the report that was presented in August 2019 outlines the consultation that was previously undertaken, and that was through Your Say and also through a survey that we did through our library newsletter. We did get, particularly through the survey, we got a number of responses to that. In terms of supporting and building of the library facility, at that point in time we didn't know about the Youth Innovation Hub, but the library facility, in terms of the responses to that, there was 82% response in support of that and that was from 1,152 people. But we can certainly make those survey results available on the hub, but they are contained in the report that went to August in 2019.
Just one question on that from me. I think it's important to note the level of support for the facility.
But Mrs. Terling, you have to agree that level of response is unusual in terms of the high number of respondees.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, compared to our other consultations, that is a good, certainly a very good response.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you, Mrs. Terling. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Parker.
Just had a thought, actually. Considering the youth hub, could we engage with the local schools and students as to what they might like to see in the youth hub and the library use in general as well?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, we've certainly engaged with the schools to get an understanding in terms of the Youth Innovation Hub and also the library as well. But now that we have the concepts with the floor plans, we will go back out to the schools and engage again with young people to probably to confirm that we kind of hit the mark as far as they're concerned. So yes, we will certainly do that.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm having a look at the new design now, and I remember, I think there was a question I think I raised in terms of after hours access just for the youth hub component. Is that still in there in the new design? Because it's a bit unclear in terms of, because I know you've got it on the main entrance, you've got an auto door after hour access, but I don't see one for the youth component. So I remember those separate components.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, certainly the intention is to have certain areas of the youth area also available after hours as well. Certainly the function rooms and the activity space would be. There may be certain areas that we would have available after hours because of the nature potentially of the equipment that's in there. But yes, the intention is certainly to have a lot of the meeting spaces and the function rooms available after hours.
My other question was, it came up engaging with some of the sort of youth groups around the area, and it was about sort of because obviously our youth centres at the moment are a separate component from our libraries and our other services. Has administration considered sort of the stigma of young people, I guess, wanting their own space to hang out rather than being clumped with other services which might be used by seniors and other age groups? Because now that we've only got the one floor plan, with the youth component mixed in with the library, have we actually considered the impact of actually young people wanting their own space? Mr. Terrell.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, I think the floor plan certainly still allows, if you look at the kind of direction of the building, that is very much focused on young people being available in that space. And I think the fit out of that space and that type of thing as well will be more designed for young people. In terms of activities and programs, I think that's often what will attract young people to that space as well. So I think as long as we get the programming right and we have the right opportunity to offer them the types of things that they're interested in, I think the fact that it's part of the co-located facility, I'm certainly hoping that will be an obstacle to young people participating.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor Herridge.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just thinking as well, I've just had something else pop in my mind. Can we, when we go out to schools and liaise again with them, most of our schools, if not all of them, will actually have their own access to newsletters. They could also put something in their newsletter to far reach, being that we're southern suburbs and trying to go a little bit further, just in my view.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes, certainly through you, Deputy Mayor, we can ask the schools if they would be prepared to put something into their newsletters.
Good suggestion, councillor. Any further questions, councillors, on this item? After such a long wait and many, many years, it's light at the end of the tunnel. There being no more questions on this item, we'll take it from they were the only two items, Mrs. Torrent, just confirming that you were wanting to present one.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Then we'll take it from the top, councillors. Item 4.6, questions. 4.7.
4.7 we have done. 4.8. Yep, 4.9 we have done. 4.10. The night lights. Are there any questions on those, councillor? There are none. 4.11, councillor Parker.
I would like to foreshadow a minor amendment to that one, please.
Thank you, councillor Parker. Are there any further questions on 4.11? There are none. 4.12. Actually, councillors, I might actually foreshadow referring this item back for one reason. Is given our where we are on the election cycle, I think it's appropriate that we refer this back to the next meeting, because we're likely to have a full council at that point. It would be appropriate if the mayor at the time might wish to express an interest. So I think it would be, well, this is just my view, it might be appropriate. I'd hope for us to be in a situation where we don't give that person the opportunity to be involved in such a significant growth. But I'm just going to foreshadow it being referred back next week. Are there any further questions on 4.12? There are none. 4.13. Any questions on 4.13? There are none. Thank you, Mrs. Terrell. We move on, councillors, to corporate strategy and performance. Mrs. Jennings. Welcome, Mrs. Jennings and Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and councillors. In this section of there are 3 from the strategy reports, and there's 2 in the late reports as well. So, I don't wish to speak to any of the first 3, but if we're doing the late ones now, I do want to make about the financial statements. Anyway.
I think we'll probably do them all together. Mr. Jennings, whilst you're there.
Thank you.
Councillors, 4.14, any questions? And of course, always the disclaimer, if you have any questions in writing, that would be much appreciated. 4.15. Councillor Roy.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I just wanted to confirm that this petition didn't have a lead petitioner on it. I remember when it was presented to council, I think at a particular meeting, there was no lead petitioner, which is not in the format that's required. So I just wanted to confirm that with the director.
Through the chair, there was no, and there is no lead petitioner. So we have contacted the first person on the list each time that the item come to the council.
It's always good. That's a good point, councillor, you've raised. I think it's always good practice to advise anyone who's looking at a petition to make sure that they're clearly identified names and addresses and contact details on petitions. Very timely question, councillor. 4.16. No questions. We then move on to the late reports, councillors, which would be 6.1, which is the financial activity statement. Mrs. Jennings, did you wish to provide comment on that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As I do every June, I just want to, in every June report, emphasise the fact this is an interim report and there is more accounting work to be done before it actually makes its way through to the final annual statement. So
that's just very important to understand that it's some figures that might change, and I'm likely to change actually.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. For 6.2, any questions on 6.2? There are none. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Jennings. Mr. Greer. Office of the Chief Executive Officer, Advocacy and Economic Development. Mr. Marmia, welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Advocacy and Economic Development has two reports this evening. The first is the Economic Development Strategy, including minor updates following public consultation and feedback that's considered by the Business and Tourism Advisory Group. And the second report is the Sports Marketing Australia Events Placement Program update, noting that on page 393 of the agenda, in the background section, the first recommendation from the Business and Tourism Advisory Group should state Business and Tourism Advisory Group and Operation Session. So apologies for that. It will be changed for next week. Happy to take questions on both the reports.
Thank you, Mr. Marmia. Let's go to 4.17. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. No questions. I just need to foreshadow a declaration of interest as a member of the Wanneroo Business Association, and I know I did that for the last time that came up, so just trying to be consistent.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Of course. Any further questions on 4.17? Yeah, Councillor Huntley.
Yeah, just to foreshadow this, the same as Councillor Wright for myself as well. Next week.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Any questions? Councillor Aitken.
No questions, but I'm a member of the WBA, so I'll foreshadow announcement this week.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions on this one, councillors? There is nil. Oh, Councillor Sangelli, sorry. No, I didn't see you there.
My question is just in relation to the consultation, and noting how many people actually looked at the plan, but then also noting the submissions. And was there any member of the community, like just general community, that actually put in some submissions, or was it all other councillors and councils and groups?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, thank you for the question. Yes, look, the responses to the community consultation was in on the ground. I'm very envious of the library. I guess our main target here was the business community, so we did send our email out to over 12,000 businesses through our e-newsletter, and we did have a pretty good open rate. But yes, we didn't. I think a lot of people read the plan, but didn't respond or give us too much comment. So you can take that how you want to, but hopefully that means that we were reasonably on the money. I guess this is just a review, albeit a pretty comprehensive one to align the strategy with the strategic plan. But yes, we on page 373 that does outline that we did get, I guess enough, but yeah, it was a bit done on the ground, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sangali. Any further questions, councillors? None. 4.18, 418. Are there any questions on 418? There is nil. Thank you, Mr. Martin. So we then move on to item 5, which is motions on notice. We've got a motion on notice from Councillor Wright, one from myself, and there's another motion on notice from Councillor Newman. So we'll be speaking to those next week, councillors. We then move on to local reports we have done. Councillors, we'll move on to item 7, which is public question time. I note that there are no members of the public due at this point. Councillors, it was brought to my attention last week that whilst there were some questions submitted in writing,
Bearing in mind the medium now that we are speculative, it was brought to my attention and live broadcast as well, that they should be called out and read out. I agree with that. So councillors, if there's no objections, I think that should become practice to read out those public questions in writing, unless there's any objections, councillors. No? Okay. I'll read the questions out that were received on PQ01-08/22 from Mrs. Newton of Wanneroo, which is on report 4.14 warrant of payments. Question 1 is on item 6004, which is council vote travel and apparel. What is the breakdown of the amount of $1,026? On question 2, items 6623 and 6624. Why is the Royal Life Saving Association listed as carrying out maintenance to a water feature? And question 3 was items 1607 and 1729. Councillor Newen's attendance at the UDIO Congress in Sydney. Flights of $1,607, accommodation $1,729 are listed. When will the residents know the full cost, which would include registration plus any other expenses incurred? Will a report be presented to council outlining what was learned relating to council? And the response provided by the Director of Corporate Strategy and Performance on item 1. The breakdown of 6604 is as follows. Travel expense claim of the 8th of March through to the 12th of April 22 is $135.21. Corporate apparel on 22nd of April 22 is $891.78. Total amount $1,026.99. On items 6623 and 6624, the Royal Life Saving Association of WA contracted to undertake maintenance and repairs to the water park asset at the Kingsway Regional Open Space. And answer 3, which relates to item 1607 and 1729. Total expenses are as follows. The UDI, and they all relate to the UDIA National Congress in Sydney. Registration was $2,613.62. Accommodation was $1,729.51. Cab charges were $188.59. Flights $1,594. And there's a flight change of $104.91. And there was a commentary under that saying there is no requirement under the council member continuing professional development policy for councillors to provide a report to council after attending conferences. However, it is seen as good practice to share any key learnings, as it is noted in section 3.2K of the policy, that any such report will be posted on the council member hub for sharing purposes. And there is another question, again, I think from the same from the same person who has asked the questions, which is question 4. Items 5.2 and 5.4. Why are candidates in the upcoming mayoral election tabling reports? This practice was never supported for any meeting prior to an election, neither appear urgent. And a response from the Director of Corporate Strategy and Performance. The election currently underway is an extraordinary election, so it was not clear until last week who might be nominating for the vacancy of mayor. In terms of the policies and local laws, the city does not have a policy for training and conference that recommends members don't attend such events in the last 3 months of their term. However, this does not apply in this election. There are no other mechanisms, such as not putting forward a motion on notice, mentioned in the city's standing orders of local law. Work is underway to draft a caretaker policy, which will make it clear that issues that may be seen as a conflict of interest during an election should not take place. This is likely to align with what may have occurred in the past as a recommended practice. That is the extent of questions in writing. Councillors, we move on to item 9, which is confidential. There is nil. That's item 8, confidential. There is nil. Item 9, date of next meeting. The next ordinary council meeting has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 9th of August 2022, to be held in the council chambers, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. And item 10 is closure. And I declare the briefing session closed at 6:50 p.m. Councillors.
That's a record.
Thank you.